I've got a Liberal Party senator for the state of New South Wales on the line right now. Hollie Hughes, welcome to TNT Radio.
Afternoon, Smithy.
It was very, very busy today in the Parliament. It seems as if with you all back in the property, there were all sorts of functions and caucus meetings and even meetings of Israeli families going on.
Look, every day is a busy day here, but the final few weeks of Parliament are always sort of on a next level.
Right.
But this morning, so every Tuesday morning, regardless of sitting weeks, we have across the parties our different party meetings. Labor has caucus meeting, we have our party meeting. That happens every Tuesday. But earlier this morning, there were a group of us from Labor, Liberal, the National Party, and a couple of crossbenchers that came to meet with a number of Israeli families who have family members who have either been killed or have been kidnapped by Hamas during the October 7th attacks. So it is just, honestly, there's times in this place that you hear things that are just beyond words. I mean, it was horrific what we were told, what we were shown this morning. There were actually videos. One of the friends of Noah, who was the girl that everyone I think would remember that was seen on the back of a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Two of her friends were with the group that came out and spoke to us this morning. And seeing some of that footage again, it was just harrowing. Plus, we also had out the front of Parliament Bring Them Home, which is an Israeli group and they had cutouts of everyone who has been kidnapped. And there were stickers placed on those today who have been returned. Unfortunately, there's far few stickers that were going up on those Israelis that are missing. And, one included the 16-year-old brother of a girl we heard from this morning who was with his mother and his sisters and was taken by Hamas. For some reason, they didn't kill his mother and sisters. They were all left. They only had 3 spots in the back of the ute, but they put 3 men in, but one was a 16-year-old boy and they don't know where he is.
Just awful. I said this to my guest in the first hour, Natalie, the whole trickling of freedom, the trickle of captives that are now being released, it's so agonizingly slow when you consider there are probably 158 still underground.
Yeah, and they don't know where they are at all. And we were talking about it this morning that the Red Cross has been implored with the UN to try and get some qualification from Hamas where, that the hostages are okay, that they're able to be visited by the Red Cross. Yet there's been absolutely no action on that front.
Yeah. They must be, they might feel safe in this country, but they just feel absolutely torn and twisted by what's occurred. How are they even holding up?
Well, I mean, they're extraordinarily strong people, but, I don't know how safe they do feel here. And it's a horrible thing to say, but
True.
We have seen an escalation of anti-Semitism, not only just here, but across the world. I mean, I cannot believe is no one a student of history. What happened in the lead up to World War II was rife anti-Semitism. And it was actually, for those of us that studied history, know that it was met with a bit of reluctance by the rest of the world, a bit of, oh, well, it's just happening there. We'll just sort of leave it alone. It's scary to think how close it is that historical events may be repeating themselves. So there is, I think, a genuine fear. I think frustration's the wrong word, but as one of the Israelis I spoke to today said to me, imagine how it feels to have your family members go through what they went through at that music festival, and then to have Hamas propaganda out there saying it wasn't them, it was the IDF in helicopters. I mean, it's just out and out lies. And yet there are some, and even in the media, who perpetuate these complete fallacies and lies put forward by Hamas.
Yeah. Can I ask you this? You said that this was a cross-party meeting with Israeli families. Did any member of the Greens turn up to meet these Israeli families?
No.
None?
The Greens' behaviour has been absolutely appalling on this front, absolutely beyond comprehension.
Foul.
They're disgusting.
Yeah.
They don't live in the same world as the rest of us.
They so don't. They so don't. Anyway, let's move on. A news poll survey reveals that 60% of the 35 to 49 cohort, which is regarded as middle Australia, are now saying they're worse off now than they were 2 years ago. Meanwhile, the new NAB survey has revealed that nearly half of all adults are experiencing some form of financial difficulty, with hardship levels at record highs. Is it any wonder Labor is free falling in the polls, Hollie?
Look, I got to tell you, the only thing I'm shocked about with that number is that it's only 50% they're finding it financially tough at the moment. Point. Because I cannot find anyone who says that they are better off than they were 18 months ago. And I'm talking about, all sorts of people that I meet across the socioeconomic spectrum. You have people that, from Western Sydney, Northwest Sydney, that are finding themselves, battling with, 2 kids, mortgage, having to find an extra $25,000 a year on an average size mortgage. But you go into even some of the wealthier parts of Sydney and, they've got bigger mortgages. Yep. Now, they're choices that families have made. I'm not, saying anything, but, these families have put their kids into schools. They've got private school fees. Their mortgages have gone up. Their repayments by, in some instances, over 50% in the last year. This is a huge amount of after-tax income that families are going to have to find and are having to find. And it is absolutely across the economic spectrum that people are finding it tough at the moment. So the only figure that surprised me, as I said, was that it was only 50% that said they were feeling the pinch.
Do you think the knives are out within the Labor Party? Like, they had a caucus meeting, as you pointed out this morning. I could only imagine the death stares from MPs who are looking at these numbers and thinking, don't tell me we're going to be a one-hit wonder, a one-term wonder here. What are you doing about the cost of living, Albo?
Well, obviously I wasn't in their party or in their caucus meeting, but I can tell you how they look sitting in the Senate. They don't look like a particularly buoyed mob at the moment. They're clearly, reading and seeing what everybody else is. I understand there's been some reports this afternoon that Jim Chalmers has promised crisis talks with backbenchers who are concerned that their $23 billion cost of living plan isn't cutting through.
There you go.
And no wonder it's not cutting through. Most of it is absolute insanity that has had zero difference to inflationary pressures, has done nothing. They had a one-off energy hit to only a certain number of households, particularly those on welfare payments. It was a sugar hit. It did nothing to reduce energy prices across the board, and there's still no answer for that. They keep talking about the Medicare rebates that they've the more bulk billing in Medicare. And every time they announce it, the AMA come out the next day and go, well, yeah, look, we're going to get more money, but we're still going to charge a gap. So, the things that they've done, they're just not hitting. And I think it's because they're putting the money in the hand of the provider a lot of the time. And so, the providers then take that money and then just put their prices up. And
very
that's
true.
Medical, childcare, you name it.
Yeah. And in terms of this, the business you rightly pointed out, the 23 billion and et cetera, most of those measures were just chasing their tail. Similarly to the gap, that doctors will charge, you're chasing your tail. You're not actually making a significant difference. And the problem Australia has is about productivity. There is nothing this government has done to do anything for productivity. As a matter of fact, all of Labor's wage rises have only created a negative productivity aura or culture in the workplace.
They've just decreased productivity, and they've done it again, a high spending government, but they've cut spending on infrastructure. Yeah. And the thing is, this was productivity boosting infrastructure. Yes. This is infrastructure that would have actually made a difference to people's lives.
Yeah.
And the thing is, some of the cuts that they've made, and we'll have a lot more to say on this, it's actually out of the terms of reference of the projects that they've cut, because they were supposed to be reviewing projects in the planning stage. They've now come out and cut projects that are underway.
Right.
So some of the roads out in Western Sydney going to the new airport, they're actually halting that project, even though it's already under construction.
You guys need to get stuck in over that.
Oh, look, Bridget McKenzie is absolutely leading a fantastic fight on that and is continuing to do so, because They announced there were 82 projects being cut, but the document that was given to reporters on the day of the press conference only had 50. So, we're still chasing documents. We're still chasing information as to what actually the whole lot looks like.
I thought this was the transparent government, but anyway.
Oh, God, no. They don't know what that word means. They are literally the direct opposite of that. They have just a complete opaqueness to them it is just quite frustrating, because at any opportunity they will block transparency, they will block visibility, and more times than not in the Senate they're being backed by their partners, the Greens.
I've got Senator Hollie Hughes with us right now, who stepped out of Parliament to speak with us. Well, it didn't take long, Hollie. One of the freed criminal detainees who refused to wear a monitoring device, mind you, I didn't know they had a choice, has not reported to police, has vanished. The mob will not take to this very well.
I mean, what an absolute disgrace this whole thing has been. Ever since the High Court put out its ruling, we had on the first day the minister that was acting and holding that portfolio in the Senate said that, we won't be releasing anyone until the High Court releases its reasons. They had to come back in the next day and say, actually, no, we're releasing them from today. And then we had the Immigration Minister and Claire O'Neill, the Home Affairs Minister, out there saying, we can't do anything, there's no legislation. And it really was Peter Dutton in the last sitting period that put together, that said, actually, if you can't legislate, what's the point of government? That's the whole point. And the fact that this government was caught completely flat-footed, I mean, any basic risk management strategy would tell you, if you're having a law challenged in the High Court, that you would have legislation ready to go should the decision not go your way. And it took these guys around a week to get anything happening. I mean, it was just appalling. The thing about this guy that's gone missing, so there's 4 that have allegedly refused to put on these electronic monitoring anklets, but the one that's gone missing, no one knows who he is. No one knows what state it happened in. No one knows what he's been convicted of previously. There's absolutely no information. So no one knows who they're looking for.
Don't tell the public. Don't tell the public. They have no right to know the truth.
This government does not seem to understand that at the very heart of its responsibilities, the key responsibility it has is keeping Australians safe. And it is failing on every metric in this level. And they are just so consumed by, their own hubris, but their inability to act. They just honestly have no idea where to go.
But, normally, and, you're talking to someone with about 40 years experience in the media, when someone goes missing and doesn't report to police and is a serious offender, or is, say, an armed robber that's got out of jail or whatever, you send the media details of the person you're looking for so that the public can help the police and law enforcement find that individual before they commit another crime. Why would they not do that now?
Excellent question.
That is the normal way it works, and I don't get it. This is just, don't look, don't allow the plebs to see, because we can't be transparent, because we'll just be shown up even more. That's what this is about.
It's really disgusting behaviour, and they are putting the community at risk in a way that is completely unacceptable, yet they refuse to take any responsibility whatsoever.
And this business about 4 don't want to wear bracelets. I'm sorry, they are not citizens of the country. They're here illegally. They were detained for very good reason. They don't have a choice, surely. Or what did we do? We sent in the public servants who said, boss, they don't want to wear the bracelet I've given them. Well, you better just let them go. Like, seriously.
It's beyond words. They're just an absolute disgrace, this government, and they should be a one-term government. This country cannot afford to have this lot of clowns running the show for much longer.
Yeah. Now, the largest study into the reasons behind the Voice referendum result has found the model put forward by the Prime Minister was a key reason for the failure. The ANU findings showed that 87% of Australians still want Indigenous people to have a voice. That's how bad the model was, Hollie.
That's how bad the Prime Minister was at selling what was his main ideological agenda.
That's what this shows.
I mean, just if you've got 87% of Australians who say this is what we actually wanted, but you ended up with 60% of them saying no.
Yes.
He's therefore got 47% of people who were a yes have gone, yeah, but you are a muppet and I cannot understand what you're trying to sell me. Yeah. This sounds like a pup. I'm going to vote no.
Yeah. Yeah. They were too smart by half at the beginning, Holly, when they said, we'll just sell them something that's not confined, that's not definitive, and they'll tick off on it. Come on.
It's the contempt with which this government treats the Australian population, and it is with complete contempt. The only people they govern for is their union mates, and the rest of Australia, they consider them mugs, and if they don't just do what they're told, well, that we all got it wrong because they still think that they're in the right.
Yeah, and there were other reasons for the failure. The failure was the fact that all of a sudden we had one race with the right to have a say, and it looked as if they were going to have a say about everything. Plus, there was that fear of being connected to a treaty, which equals reparations. None of that was defined. They kept yelling and screaming, you can't talk about that because it doesn't include that. Well, your Attorney General told us in August it did. You've shut him up since August, so that tells us that is dead set what it's about.
And half of the constitutional experts that came out and spoke about it said exactly those things, that it had a huge remit, that it was completely ill-defined, that there was an inability to really decipher where it was going to end and start and who was actually going to be impacted and what would be the ramifications for this truth-telling and treaty. I mean, it was a complete hash from woe to go, led by the Prime Minister. And so it all lays at his feet.
It does. And you think back to when Brexit was passed, only narrowly, but still passed. David Cameron pulled the plug and walked.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, that would assume a level of decency that people in this government seem to be completely devoid of. They don't have any acceptance of their own errors. If they make a mistake, it wasn't their fault. Everybody else got it wrong. So, that's expecting that these people have a level of humility that just does not exist within them.
I thought that we'd eventually find out the true DNA of a Labor very left-leaning Prime Minister, probably in the beginning of a second term. I didn't think that implode this early.
Here we are.
That's exactly what they've done.
We're going into Christmas. You should never say that they can't recalibrate, but I think it's a big ask. Now, I've just noticed bells are ringing.
Okay, I'll let you go. Great to have you on the program. Thank you.